Morning to all. Till now we have discussed various basic parts of Python. Now let's move to functions in Python. It is one of the important topic of any language. So here we will discuss different types of functions like user defined, built-in type, lambda functions and recursion functions. So before learning these types of functions, we first must know what are functions, how it is useful for us. Okay, so in Python programming, functions are used for code reduction. That means if you want to reduce the code, that you should use functions. A function represents some part of code which can be executed only when it is required. Functions are mainly used for performing a particular task. Some advantages of functions are duplicated block codes in a program can be reduced. जो भी आपका repeated code है, that will be reduced by functions. Complex code can be divided into smaller parts, like you can use modules. Improves the efficiency of code. It will reduce the code. It provides flexibility. Proves modularity, that if you divide the big program in small modules, then it is easy for the programmer to understand the program. The information contained in one function can be hidden from other functions. Okay, so we can hide our function from different function. So in Python programming, functions are very similar to basic data type objects. Mainly there are two types of functions. First one is your built-in function and second one is your user-defined function. So let's see here what I write here. A function is a block of organized, reusable code that is used to perform a single related action. Functions provide better modularity for the applications. It provides a high degree of code reusing. So main purpose is to reuse the code again and again. Okay. Then efficiency will be improved by using functions. Okay, so mainly there are two types of functions. First one is your built-in function, second one is your user-defined functions. Built-in functions are defined within the Python programming language. In any Python program, the programmer can call these functions without providing the definition. In previous sessions, we are using print function, input function, so that are already built-in functions in Python. Okay, so now next is user-defined functions are basically defined by the user. So that section we will learn in this particular functions part. So move to next, how to define or rules for defining function in Python. See, for defining a function blocks begin with the keyword def. In previous languages or C++, you are using void, data type return, and the name of function, then parenthesis. Here we are using keyword def followed by the function name and the parenthesis. Then any input parameters or arguments should be placed within these parameters. We also define parameters inside these parentheses. The code block within every function starts with a colon. As previous, we are using if, we use looping. So when we use that in first statement, like where we mentioned the condition of if, we use colon there. Same way, when we define a function, we will use colon here and is indented. Next, the statement return exists a function, optionally passing back an expression to the caller. Here we will see how to use return statement in the functions. Return statement with no argument is the same as return none. Okay, we will see these statements by an example, how it will work. So next is here by an example or by some syntax, I am showing how function syntax, how do we declare a function. See, first of all, I'll just write a def keyword. So def keyword introduces a function definition, then the function name, then the parameters. So see, parameters is placed within the parenthesis and define parameter inside the parenthesis. Okay, if you want to define the parameters, then you should do within the parenthesis. Then it is followed by a colon. Then statement 1, statement 2 are the definition of function, like what task you want to perform with the particular function. At the end I'm using here return expression. So return statement exists a function block, and we can also use return with no arguments. By return statement you can return the value of function. So here it is not required to use the return statement. Okay, it's not compulsory that you should use return in every function. Next, here is the example, like how to define function. First I'll define the function, that is def with a keyword name, then print underscore str is the name of function, then one parameter and followed by a colon. Within this function I'll just print str1 and simply write return. To call this function I'll just have to write print underscore str anywhere in the program. Okay, so let me show you an example before discussing further sessions, so that you can understand. Okay, so let's see, let's create a simple function, or let me show you an example of built-in function also. Okay, so first of all let me show you an example of built-in function. So here I am using an input function. So enter the data, input, then I pass the string value. Now simply I want to print the entered data is simply X. Okay, so let's just run it. So it will ask for enter the data. Simply I'll just entering 34 and enter. So it will print entered data is 34. So here it is an example of built-in function. Okay, so here I am using two built-in functions. One is your input and second one is your print function. So these two are example of built-in function. Now let's try to make up another function in Python. Okay, so let's just write def f1 followed by a colon. Simply I'll just write hello here. Okay, then when I want to call this function, simply I'll write the name of function. Okay, how many times you want this statement, you can call that particular function many times. So when you run it, see, I'll just define a function with a statement print hello, and by writing just f1 parenthesis, it is the calling of a function. It is the definition of a function. It is defining, definition, and it is the calling. I have called this function 4 times. That's why it is printed this value hello 4 times. Okay, so f1 is a user defined function. So here is the example. It is the example of a user defined function. User defined function means the function which is made by you people, which is made by us. A new function we are making, like a statement hello. I want to print it many times just by just writing the name of function f1 again and again. I'll just getting the value of hello of that particular function. Okay, see here I am using calling of a function. I'll writing here again and again, that is 4 times. If I want this value 4 times, so I have to call this function 4 times. So here as a one more procedure how to use same thing with writing, with calling function only once. See how we have done this concept, that is your looping. So by looping we can print this particular statement, or we can call this particular function once, and how many times you want that particular function, just mention in the range. Okay, so just try to run it, see what happen. Okay, see it is very important to put colon after starting the loop or if condition. So see here it is printing hello 5 times, as I provide the range 5, it will start from 0 to 4 and print the value 5 times. Okay, so here you have to put many times, here you have called the function, particular function 4 times. Now by looping you are calling that function only by writing once, but by looping it will print value 5 times. Okay, I hope you just understand the syntax and calling of function, how to define a function, how to call a function simply, or how to call a function by a looping. Now moving to next topic, that is passing arguments to a function. When the user defined function is called, the values are transferred from calling function to call function. These values are called as arguments. So in Python programming there are 4 types of arguments. First one is your required arguments, second one is your keyword arguments, third one is your default arguments, and the last is variable length arguments. So let's discuss one by one. First of all, required arguments. So as the name applies, required arguments, it means required arguments are mandatory for the function call. Okay, so first the required argument should be listed, then the default argument should be listed. If you are using required and default argument in a program, then you should first define the required argument and then define the default argument. So here I have shown an example. Let's see here I used a function named def. With the help of def keyword I have declared a function name is sum. In this the first variable a is your required variable, required argument, and the b is your default value. Default value means in next sessions in further slides we will discuss what default arguments are. Default argument means if user not provide a value, then that particular value is taken for processing. So in this program here I am declaring a function named sum with one required argument and one is your default argument with value 10. After that I will just return the value, that is the addition of these two values, that is a plus b. When I try to call this function, I just simply write print sum, then providing first time I am providing two values, then by this I am getting the sum of 10 and 20. After that I am just providing a single value. In that case it will take 20 as a, and for the value of b it will consider the default value, that is 10. In next case same will happen, as some 10 will be passed, then it will take as the value of a and b equal to 10 will be considered. Okay, so when the value b is not passed in the function, then what will happen, it will take the default argument, that is b equal to 10. And in this particular code, argument b has given a default value, that is 10, and a is a required argument. So in this example, default argument as well as required argument has been used. Let me show the practical of this side by side, so that you can understand easily how it works. See, here is the program of passing arguments. I'll just write the same program, and when I run it, I'll simply getting some 30, then some 30, then some 20. See, let me change the value to 40, then what will I get? I'll get 60. Okay, so 40 is the value of A and 20 is the value of B. If I'll not pass this value in the further cases, that simply I am just using a single value, that means it will take the default value of argument B. Okay, so next move to default argument values. What are default argument values? See, default argument is what? Default argument is basically used to initialize the arguments with the default values. If the argument is not passed during the function call, then the default values will be initialized for default arguments. Okay, so now let's see the example of this. The default value is evaluated only once. Okay, so see what I did here. I'll just make a function. In previous example, we have already seen about the functioning of default variable. So here is another example of default. Like here I am again using a B variable with the value 90 as a default argument. So no change of code, just I'll change the statement that in the previous example I am just calculating the sum, and in this case I am just printing the values of A and B. When I called here, I am passing A and B. If I simply pass A, then in this case it will take the default value of B. Next is a default arguments case with the mutable object. If you want to use default values with mutable objects such as list, directory, and or more instances of like classes, etc. So how to use that? See, in this example what I did here, just I simply use a function that is f1 or function 1, then I am using a B variable, then a list. Okay, so here I am using in this l.append. So you know append method is basically used to add values at the end. So at the end of this statement I'll just write return l. See, here I am using return statement again and again. So let me tell you first about what is return statement. So return statement is used to return the values from the user defined function to the calling statement. So for this purpose, return keyword is used to return the values. Okay, so move to next. Let's understand this function, how it works. Let me show you the example. So here is the example, how default values work with mutable object. See how it works. When you first call fun and the value pass Neha, then only Neha is printed. Then further Megha, as I am using append function here, so in previous list it will add the Megha. Okay, so by this way different values are append in this function that is named fun. So here is the functioning of default values with mutable object. Now next is keyword arguments. So next is your keyword argument. It is the third one. Keyword arguments are related to your function calls. So let's see. Keyword arguments can be recognized based on the keywords. These arguments do not follow their positions, that is, the position of arguments can be varied. So here it is a new thing about keyword arguments. Keyword arguments are used when there are some functions with many parameters and only some of them need to be specified. Okay, so let's see the example here. It also allows to skip arguments or place them out of order. As I told, no sequence is followed here. Position of the arguments can be varied, can be changed. So here's the example what I did here. I'll make a function named function1 and pass the date and year as arguments. Just simply print date and year, and when I call this function I simply passing the value 1975 as year and date as 20. So caller identifies the keyword argument by the parameter name. You have to remember how the function calling function get to know about that is it is a keyword argument by the parameter name. So here I am passing the value of year, whereas in when I declare the function I'll use the sequence date and year, but when I calling it I am passing year first and date at the second parameter. So no issues are there. It will print the value date equal to 20 and year equal to 1975. Okay, so it is a good thing about that. You just simply write the name of parameter and assign the value of that particular variable. So let me show you the example of this keyword argument, how to run it. It's the example of keyword argument. So simply I'm running. Okay, same we use a different program. I am defining a function with two parameters, that is x and y. Okay, then simply I am just adding x plus y and print value of x print value of y as y, and next I want to print the sum. So sum is your s. Okay, sum is present in s. Now n1 I'm just calling this function like add x equal to 10 comma y equal to 20. Okay, try to run it. Okay, the sequence is not maintained, that's why it is not functioning. Okay. Now see what it will do. When I'll call this function, that is add x equal to y equal to 20, it will simply calculate the values. Okay, if I change the order, that add x, firstly I am passing y, then x, then what will happen? Again it is functioning. Okay, so sequence is now, if sequence is not sequence, we can change the sequence as well in default arguments, in keyword arguments. So here is all about keyword argument. Now move to next, that is your arbitrary argument. Move to next, that is your arbitrary argument list. It is another type of passing an argument to a function. So in Python programming, it supports an additional feature called as variable length arguments, or you can say arbitrary arguments. So thus in user defined functions in Python programming, the variable length need not be fixed. During the function call, more than number of arguments can be passed, and for this purpose star operator and operator star should be used. multiple arguments are maintained by using tuples. So an star or an asterisk is used for this purpose, is placed before the variable name that holds the value of all non-keyword variable arguments. It is also called variable length arguments. This tuple remains empty if no additional arguments are specified during the function call. So here is the syntax that the function by def keyword following by the def keyword function name, then a formal arguments, and with the star it is the type of variable length arguments. So this is an variable length argument or arbitrary argument, and asterisk sign is placed before the variable name. Okay, so let's have an example of this. This is the example. Here I am explaining two examples. One is this and second one is this. First of all, let's see this. In this function I am just using a function. The first variable is passing a name and second one is star value. See how it works if when you call this by writing function name and passing the value 45, only one value is passed. That's why it shall simply print the name and value is blank. See, here is the first output, that is 45 and blank. As this is represents as a tuple, so it is now no value is passed further, that's why it is blank. In next calling function, what I did, I passed 4 values. So in this particular case, what will happen, 56 is considered as the value of name and rest all will considered as the value of this arbitrary argument. Okay, that means 89, 90 and 67 is considered as a tuple. Okay, so let me show you example by running this. See, here's the example of this. This is the example. Same thing I write here, just I run it, and when I change, when I pass multiple values, like I'm passing many values. Okay, I'm using comma. Okay, so now let's try to run it. See what will happen. The first value, that is 23, is printed and the name, and rest values will considered as a whole tuple. Okay, so here's the functioning of variable length, parameters and arguments. What the second function says, when I am see, first of all, order can be changed of like arbitrary argument. Order can be changed, like it can be your first or second, but its functioning can't be changed. Like if you are using arbitrary argument as a first parameter and second is your normal parameter, then it will consider only one value that you are provided and another values for that arbitrary argument. Let's see this by an example. See, here I am defining a function in which first parameter is a argument type variable and second I am just passing a value, that is Monica. When I try to print this value, it will print Monica, and when it will check the values, next for loop is for as different values for present in the variable, that is variable type arguments. Simply I print val and return. When I call this function, it will, what will happen, I am passing 3 values. First of all, it will print the value of this val, that is Monica. After that, it will print the all values which I passed from here. Okay, so here is the functioning of the second example in the variable length arguments or arbitrary arguments. Hope you have clear this topic. Now move to next, that is your lambda expressions. What are lambda expressions, or you can say anonymous functions? Okay, these functions are also called anonymous function. So in Python, a user-defined function without name is also allowed. If you want to don't want to specify the name of function, then you can do that. This type of function is called as anonymous function. So anonymous functions are not defined with def keyword. Instead, lambda keyword is used. For this purpose, we will use lambda keyword. These functions consist of only one expression. The lambda functions can be used in the program like other user-defined functions. In anonymous function definition, multiple arguments are allowed, but only one value can be returned. So the syntax just have an syntax like lambda, then arguments, then expression. So this will work how small functions can be created with lambda keyword. Here we will use lambda keyword. For anonymous functions, lambda expressions, and anonymous functions are same. So next, let's have an example of this. Here I am using this function. In this function, I am using a lambda expression. Lambda, how? Just by writing x, what it specifies, the function returns a multiply of two arguments. Here I am saying what my expression will do. It will multiply the number. Lambda function is restricted to a single expression. Yes, it is compulsory that these functions consist of only one expression. So let's see the example of lambda function. Let me make another program for you. Suppose I have a variable bm and I am just making a lambda function. If I want to pass multiple moments and specify the function in it, x comma y, and y specifies x star y. Okay, and I'm passing two numbers, 10 and 20. Next, I want to print the values. Simply, values are n1 comma n2, and for how to call lambda expressions, for that I am writing print result is, that is m, and by passing two values that I am defining, that is n1 and n2. Let's try to run it, see how it works. See here what will happen. Values are, that is 10 and 20, and when it called lambda function, it will the cursor control will pass to this expression, and this expression, what it says that it will multiply the number. So result is 200. So here is the program of lambda functions or anonymous function. Hope you have cleared about this concept. Now move to next. That is your return statement. Return statement is basically used to return the values from the user defined functions to the calling statement. For this purpose, return keyword is used at the end of the function to return the values. Okay, so as in previous programs, I have used return statement many times. Next, here are some examples of returning values. Like you can return a single value, C, return 100, a constant value. You can return a list, and you can return return values more than one by the comma. So move to next is our recursive functions. So what is recursive functions? Before that, I have make a program of returning m values. Let me show you this example by running this program. That is returning statement. So now let's see the concept of returning statement. Returning statement is basically used by a return keyword, which is used to return the values from user defined functions to the calling statement. So here are some examples of return statement, or how you can return values. The difference between this return that I'm using in Python or in previous languages we have used return, we can only return a single value at a time. But in Python you can return a value by a comma. You can say by this you can return more than one value at a time. Return, simply write the variables with the help of comma, then it will return more than one value at a time. So here's the example how it is returning multiple values at a time. See what I did here. I make a function named defsum underscore sub ab. Simply I am just calculating first time addition of these two numbers, then I am calculating the subtraction of these two numbers. I am returning two variables, that is c comma d. This will not work in C, C++. It will give you error, as return statement always return a single value at a time, but here it will work. And here I called this function and simply display the results of this function. So let's see the practical of this, how to return values. So here is the example. See, when I run it, it simply gives the value. When I'm providing 10 and 5, it will first add, then return the 15, and when the subtraction call, that is d, then 10 minus 5, it will result in 5. Okay, so by this way you can return more than one value at a time by return statement. Now move to next, that is your recursive function. So what is recursive function in Python? Recursive functions are basically those which calls itself, that are recursive. In a function, when a function call again and again itself, then it is called a recursive function. See how, here's an example of this. I'll make an example that by name of function is pr and a variable is passed here. I simply check a condition. If that number that is passed here is greater than 0, then you have to print a. Then again pr a minus b. That means here is recursion going on. When you again calculate pr a minus 1, that is, see here I am passing 5. Then first it will check 5 is greater than 0. Print, it will print 5, and pr 5 minus 1, that is 4. Then pr 4 means again this function is called, that is pr 4 by the value of 4. Again it will check 4 greater than 0, again it will print. Then what will happen? 4 minus 1, pr 3, again it will continue. So in this program, what is going on? A function is calling itself again and again until जब तक ये condition true है. When this condition become false, it will return the values. Okay, so here I am calling this function by the value of 5. Okay, so that is the example of recursive function. Next, move to our last topic of functions, as functions is a topic that is very large, and in further sessions we will continue this topic side by side, or will learn many things of functions with that concepts. So now move to for this time, now move to the last topic of functions, that is local and global variables. So first of all, let's discuss what are these variables. I'll just explain some differences here, that local variables is declared inside a function, whereas global variable is declared outside the function. That means local variable is only accessible within the function, whereas global function can be accessed outside the function or everywhere in the program. So here are some differences. Let's understand these two concepts, that is local and global, by an example. So first of all, I have a local variable. What is local variable? It is defined as a type of variable declared within programming block or subroutines within the function. it can only be used inside the code block or in which it is declared. It exists until the block of function is under execution. After that it will be destroyed automatically. So here I'll make a function and with the variable z equal to 10 with local. So when I am going to print it, it will print local variable value z. When I called it, it will print local value variable z, that is 10. But as it is a local variable, when this statement is called, it will not print any value outside the variable local value. Outside value it will not print here. Why? As the functioning of local variable is restricted to this block, this particular function block. Next is let me show you the example of this, then move to next. So see, here I have run the recursive function program. Now let's see the example of local variable, how to use local variable in a function or in a program. See, here I'll make a function name funct and declare a variable. It is a local variable as it is used inside the function. Simply I'll just print it, and when I call the function, I'm getting local variable value, that is 10. See, when I try to access outside the function, see simply, then see what will happen. If it will give you an error that name C is not defined. As why? As C is a local variable and it can't be accessible from it can't be accessible outside the function. Okay, so next is your global variable. What is global variable? For this, as the limitation comes out from local variable, we use functions as global variable. Global variables can be accessed throughout the program. In case of local variable, the changes made to it is available only within the corresponding function. Whereas in case of global variable, the changes made in any user defined function will be reflected and available to all other user defined functions. So let's see the example. See, here I'll just declare a z equal to 10. It is a global variable and I'm using this variable in this function also and outside the program also, and simply getting the output, that is global variable value 10 within the function, and when it is accessed at outside, then it also works and bring the value 10 outside the function. So it is the advantage of global variable, that it can work within the function as well as outside the function. Now last but not least, here is another statement, that is a global statement. If you want to use a variable, local variable outside the program, outside the function, then how will you do so? In Python, global statement is used to declare the variable as a global variable. Once the variable is declared as global, the corresponding variable can be available in any other function. With the help of global keyword, you can access a local variable outside the program. See what I did here, I declare a function with the help of global keyword and assign a value 10. When I have accessed within the function, it will print value 10. Again, when I am trying to print value outside the function, it is also giving the value, that is 10. So with the help of global statement, you can access the particular local variable outside the function also.